This is Liberated Love Notes, a podcast on Living Corporate Network hosted by yours truly, Brittany Janay, creator of Liberated Love Notes, critical self reflections and affirmations for the culture. You already know Liberated Love Notes is your source for weekly doses of self reflection, affirmation, and reimagining for us by us. So, I came across this meme on Instagram a few days ago that really hit. Really, really hit. I've shared with y'all before in the intro that over the last couple of months, I've really been prioritizing the intrapersonal work, right? Those internalized narratives, forms of oppression, and dehumanization that legit live in me, sometimes unbeknownst to me until I really do the work of pausing and reflecting, sitting with it. Anyways, this meme came up and it hit. It actually read, internalized capitalism looks like. So it reads, internalized capitalism looks like, and it lists a few behaviors, y'all. I'm going to read these off. Internalized capitalism looks like feeling guilty for resting. It looks like your self worth is largely based on doing well in your career. It looks like placing productivity before health. It looks like believing hard work equals happiness. It looks like feeling lazy even when you're experiencing pain, trauma, or adversity. It looks like using busyness as a way to avoid your needs. Y'all, and so it hit because I saw myself in not just one, but like several of these, right? I can absolutely recall times where, you know, largely I saw my self worth driven by or influenced by like my career trajectory, right? Like what I was doing, how I was making gains. That's what I was, or have tied or connected my self worth to. I absolutely can recall, you know, being in situations where I used busyness or staying busy as a defense mechanism. Some might even call it a trauma response. I have and still do sometimes find myself feeling bad for being lazy, right? And I put lazy in quotes, even when the moment calls for rest. And so I read this gem of a post and sat with it because it gets at, again, that internal self abolition work, right? That I think is critically important as we strive, or at least I know I strive to show up as my most liberated self. It also made me think about the work of Trisha Hersey, otherwise known as the Nat Bishop, on Instagram over at the Nat Ministry. And Trisha Hersey, for years in her work, has been making the connection between grind culture, colonialism, white supremacy, specifically calling for rest as a form of resistance. She echoes the work of our ancestor Audre Lorde, who shares that caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. All of that, y'all, just really, got me to thinking, was even affirming as I have really been trying to be more intentional about actively disrupting the lie of anti blackness and colonialism, that would suggest that my black body, that our black body's primary function is to do, right? Right? That our primary function of being here is to do, to be productive, to be a tool for production, right? Not just be, but to do. So much so, right? How many of you can relate to feeling badly for resting, for pausing? Or at the end of a day or week, sometimes I'll find myself lamenting more about what I didn't accomplish or get done versus basking in the gratitude and blessing of all I was able to do. Or even more that, that simply I woke up that morning, that week, that I am alive and well, being, right? I think about how who we are. I think about how who we are is almost always inextricably bounded with what we do. So much so that, like, when you meet folks, and obviously this was before pre-pandemic, but in like social and networking capacities, that's almost always what people ask first, right? What you do, or you know, if you're speaking or asked to introduce yourself, to share who you are, to share who we are. How many times have we led with our jobs, right? What we do, our work. And this stuff like starts young. I was reading an article that talked about how early we internalize and even pass down to our children that identity and worth are interlocked with career aspirations, making a living. Just think about the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And how that being is often qualified with a role or some form of like productivity, doing. All of this brings me, all of this reflection brings me to this week's Liberated Love Note, an affirmation I actually wrote for myself as a reminder that I am more than what I do. I am more than my job. I am more than my business. That who I am is neither limited to nor contingent on how I can produce for others. That my worth and validation is not tied up in my work. Can we do, purposeful work and that not be all that we are? I would say yes. Can we do work that is connected to our identity and passions? Work that is deeply personal and still create healthy boundaries? I would say absolutely. I would even venture to say that it is absolutely necessary. And so I'll speak from experience as a Black woman working in the equity, justice, inclusion, space. Part of this delineation of what I do from who I am is in service of my own self concept. I remember finding myself in situations where I was perhaps internalizing messages or narratives related to my effectiveness in this work based on like hella structural things, y'all, right? And so just think, global pandemic 2020, Black folks are getting killed and arrested on camera on top of being brutalized by our criminal justice, healthcare systems, also being harmed by corporate America. And here I am working in the capacity of, diversity, right? Pushing diversity training. It just, at some point didn't feel urgent enough. Like I started thinking to myself, like, okay, what in the world is this work a lie? Am I ineffective? Am I doing this work in a way that is not effective or impactful as it could be? Does that make me ineffective and not impactful? What else do I need to be doing more of? Right? I only feel worthy or validated when someone or others deem it so. Y'all, these are the lies. Well, these are the lies I caught myself telling myself. These are the lies we tell ourselves. I like to I might assume that we've all been there. And so, put simply, my love note to self, and certainly you all, is this, all right? I am not my work. Go ahead and say it. I am not my work. My work is not my worth. I am not my work. My work is not my work. In fact, and we affirmed this last week, in fact, I am inherently worthy. There are no prerequisites. I am not my work. My work is not my worth. In fact, I am inherently worthy. There are no prerequisites. And even though I am engaging in good work, purposeful work, personal work, impactful work, this work is not all I am. It is not who I am. It is what I do. I don't know about y'all, but I experienced some freedom in that clarity, right? I experienced freedom in that clarity, knowing that I am more than what I do. I am more than what I do. I'd even offer as an exercise this week, y'all. I might ask you to engage in an exercise this week. Literally complete the phrase I am, right? And list out those things that make you who you are aside from what you do, right? If you had to answer the question, who are you? And not even mention what you do, your job, what might that sound like? There is a quote that I sit with often, I recite often, I share often because it resonates with me so much. And it's by Lucille Clifton, Black woman, poet. She shares, in the bigger scheme of things, the universe is not asking us to do something. The universe is asking us to be something. And that's a whole different thing. I probably shared that before, but there's something about it that hits y'all. In the bigger scheme of things, the universe is not asking us to do something. The universe is asking us to be something. And that's a whole different thing. Who you be, right? Who you be is way more than what you do. Who you be is way more than what you do. I promise. All right, y'all. That's all I got for you. Wishing you a purposeful week that is one of clarity. That's one of my words from the top of the year. A purposeful week that is one of clarity. And my other word, y'all, ease. I'll catch you next time.